So what I consider a strong mind is not just having a lot of information and knowledge in your mind, and not a lot of not it's not learning about facts or mastering skills and just knowing a lot of things. That's one aspect of it. That's only, I would say, one aspect of it. It probably represents about your capabilities, your capabilities and skills, the outward skills, the external skills, um, and also more things you can do with your hands, something that you can produce to the external world. I think that represents about 20%. That includes the information you're getting from it and then outputting. But one of the things that I feel that most of us think that 20% is the most important thing, but it could be even actually less, up to like 10%. But what you realize is that there's a part to your mind that that we don't even, I feel like we don't even have words for yet, because we are in normal psychology. They do a very they are taking a very symptomatic approach to how they look at the subject. They look at stress response. If you were to change this, how does it manifest, right? But they never identify anything that is introspectively, or looking within, how consciousness itself functions within, and how it affects your thought and everything. That's not examined, I feel. So there's an aspect that things like philosophy like Stoicism, Buddhism, and Hinduism even, and even some metaphysical concepts, and examines the existence of the mind, the patterns of the mind. So when you examine these patterns of the mind, you start to realize, intaking of knowledge, cognition, and perception is just only part of it. There's certain things that are happening inside our mind that are actually is pretty much automatic, and some of the things are actually you can change completely the way how you process information by changing certain principles in which you process information. So for me, at a very deep level, that's what I'm helping you guys realize, is that there's not only one way to process information, there's many ways. And when you're able to quickly move through multiple ways of processing information, you feel like your world is not so bad. It doesn't seem like too stressful, because you can go and attack the same problem multiple different ways, or challenge look at it multiple different ways, and come to a point, I know what I need to do. So that at a very, very deep level, that's what I'm showing you guys through different series on how to build a stronger mind, through work or through depression or anxiety. It just always points to one thing, which is open your eyes to see this, look at your things in life in a different perspective, almost an opposite perspective. But opposite, you're not doing opposite for opposite's sake, because you're doing it as an experiment. You have to take on this mindset. You have to do it almost like an experiment in which you learning to see, can having these patterns of thinking contribute to my creating something more beautiful beautiful towards my life, or something more wonderful towards my life. So I say, if you don't resonate with some of this stuff, that's completely fine. That means this is either not for you, or it's not for you right now. So don't be hard on yourself, and don't be hard on me, obviously, but understand that some of this stuff is not for you yet, right? It's because it does ask you to take a lot of personal responsibility. Once you understand that you can take 100% the personal responsibility, the circumstances and things that happen in your life, then you actually come to the point that I'm talking about. But up until then, it's almost a percentage game. Give yourself some room to grow, and don't look at yourself in a very in terms of absolute way. So that's what I want you to understand, is that it's the same thing. It's like, another example I can give you, if you guys know about computing world, but the programming world, right? So if you're a computer programmer, And if you're not a computer programmer, if you look at a piece of code, if you're not haven't seen any of these code, this will be gibberish to you, right? You won't understand anything that is going on. So, but the same data, same code, you show it to a person who are learning to become a programmer, that person will be able to understand some code. They'll be like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen if this code to get executed, but he might not know how to how all of it work, but he has an essentially idea. But the key thing is he can read the code, but he doesn't know how to create it himself. But the third guy know how to create it and also read it. So essentially, that's what I'm talking about. So when I'm explaining this stuff, you guys essentially see the world in a very specific way. So your code, what you see and take in from the world, is limited to your learning and pattern recognition. And this pattern recognition, if you analyze, it comes from books and things like that. So even over the last 4 or 5 years, I've gone through about 300 books, and I started to see these patterns happening over and over again, right? And then I realized, if these are continuous patterns that are happening, then why am I affected by them? So I started to have a different approach towards that, and this is essentially the byproduct of that and my learning, basically summarizing and testing, essentially you can say, the 300 books I read, and putting it against the world and kind of filtering out the best out of it. And for me, I realized the key message out of all of them I got is that you need to let all the things that are externally bothering you. You need to take a temporary break from that, because those things that are external to you wasn't there before in your life. You know what? You always there. Your mind. You had to live with your mind. So you're letting all these external things coming into your line and blocking your vision and making you weaker, right? Especially if you have a reliance, explaining the world, identifying yourself or identity by materialism or things you own. Especially you will have a really hard time understanding this stuff, or digesting this stuff. You will struggle with it in the beginning, but if you go with it, you will realize what I'm saying is it's not to have material stuff. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that your identity should not be based on those material things. If you're making good money, why don't you get a good car, right? Get a good nice house, and make it beautiful. I say go for it. That's not materialism. It's materialism if one of them breaks, or somebody comes and steal your stuff, and now you're in a very upset situation. Now you're trying to go and hurt people and think the whole world is against you. That's materialism, because now you're attached to the things that you bought from the external world, and now that has become an identity to yourself. Now it has to cause emotional reaction from your own mind. So that's what I see as ignorance. I never say you cannot enjoy the life that you want to create. I think you should create something you find extremely enjoyable. And I think the way you do that by helping others and nurturing them and loving them and giving them what they want at that time, right? Best way you can. Not if you're pressured to do it all the time, and then you're just giving only, not taking. You need to see, are you in a rested situation? Are you able to comfortably give without losing yourself into emotion and your pains and everything, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's not always about, being a minimalist. I don't believe in being a minimalist. That's an extremist idea. Think about it, right? That means you're so worried that you will be attached to things. You have to live in a minimalist lifestyle. But if you're truly happy living a minimalist lifestyle, why not? But what I'm saying is that be okay, entertaining multiple ways of other people living. Maybe that's what makes them happy. If you truly love living in a minimalist way, what's wrong? What's wrong with that? If it gives you a little bit of a peace of mind, not see things around, why not? But if you're a guy who enjoys having a beautiful things, living a little bit of technology and things like that, why not? No, neither is correct, neither is incorrect. Just enjoy what you do. But the thing is, we have these judgments and we identify ourselves with things we own. That has become such an issue. We are so our minds are so governed by those things rather than our own self, what we want to do in our life, it has become a very difficult place to be here, right? So I mean, I feel like, especially if you guys are listening to this stuff, that means you know you, there's a reason why you got a chance to listen to this stuff, so I say it doesn't need to be the game or your life or whatever doesn't need to be too hard. I know there's bad things might be happening all around us, but what I'm saying is, um, the way you always continue to think, if it helped you, think like that. But I already got the tired of tiresome ways of thinking that it's the world's fault for being the situation, because I always thought that, and then I changed the way I, like, maybe it's my fault, everything might be my fault, let me at least, like, test it out, and I realized everything is my fault. And then I realized, man, a lot of the things that happen, negative things that I call negative, happen because of my weaknesses and my ignorance, and I wanted things so badly, especially external things, and that ended up being squeezing my mind and giving me a difficult place to be. But if I understand things as I understand now, you have to take almost life as, literally as one day at a time. But the thing is, you have to find a way to maximize that one day. It's not, somebody was like, oh yeah, you just have to live in the moment. But no, if you're trying to live in the moment, that's again an extremist attitude. You were like, oh, how is it extremist? Because you're trying to do something at that point. Maximize what you do at one point. That means, if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, just turn on the best movie you've seen in your life, your favorite movie, right? Watch some, like I said, enjoy your time. Go play the guitar. Go take a course on Udemy. Do something you enjoy to the maximum level. It's not trying to, you can say you're trying to maximize your happiness, but maximize your happiness to the amount of that it doesn't cause you harm. You see, if you're when you're trying to do that, and it only maxes happiness, if you want, obviously, it's again, it comes to what you want to do, keeping your mind free a little bit, and asking it, and not always being hard on it. Because every time when our mind does something like mean to the world, we are super hard on it. Especially when you look at a retrospect, right? For example, say that you accidentally caused somebody harm, but if you look at yourself, that person, who you were, is not the person you are right now, right? That person didn't have the information that you have right now. You experienced, or those experience that went through you, processed through you, help you to realize those things that you didn't realize before. So that's essentially what I want you to understand. It's not about being strong, having a strong mind. It's being able to openly entertain many different perspectives and ideas and ideologies, and not let it wither away from your being, because all those things are external. So what I say is, like, if you want, pick and choose the best pieces of everything, right? Everybody has, when they're saying some, at least 1, 2, 3%, maybe 10%, maybe 40%, if they're 45%, if you agree with 45, 50% of the things what I say, man, that's impressive. That means you resonate with me, in my opinion, a lot. Because we have a lot of differences. Even the people we feel very similar to us, we have a lot of differences, because what I said before, right? We only know our knowledge and everything represents for about 20%. The other 80% accounts for about things like mental fortitude, our subconscious processes, and subconscious, what I mean, but it's almost like unconscious processes that is responsible for when, like, think about it, like, when you go see certain patterns of information, like, say that when you're going to, like, do public speaking, how does your body realize to express its anxiety provoking symptoms, right? Where's the processing come from, and what information, in order for your body to execute that function of anxiety, that means, like, the symptoms that you feel when you get anxiety, like the tingly feeling and everything, what is the processing that has to take place, and then identify the processes it has to, and then do that automatically, because you didn't have nothing to do with anxiety when you're getting anxiety. You see what I mean? So those accounts a lot more in-depth investigation that you're not doing, especially if you're externally focused and only worried about that 20%. You see what I mean? What I'm saying is, you need, once you understand that 80% that are hidden within you, which I'm telling you, you can, it works on essentially the way I'm talking about. The way it works is that when you understand the pains of others and when you have love for the others, it makes it easier for you to go within your own self and be kind to yourself. So you need to be able to practice that, at least in the beginning. If you have a hard time being kind to yourself, be kind to others a little bit, and then deflect that or reflect that back at you, because their pains are, you're another human being just as them. You're just coming across this information and the way of looking at this very recently, right? So that's what I think, you should do, and that's what I would give myself advice if I was a bit, younger. And I would, that's how I would guide them, because like I said, the world is a much easier place when we are a little bit more accepting, and when we accept how things are as is and see the perfection in it. And you will wonder, what do I mean by perfection? That you will soon to understand that the dualistic nature is what we actually find in the world. Dualistic mean the two, the extremeness of nature is what we find enjoyable, and entertain ourselves with different kinds of problems. So we will get into those things in our series soon. So, but the key thing for you to understand is that having a stronger mind, it's about just evaluating multiple perspective, being able to have multiple way of looking at the same problems. Hopefully once more advanced version of this, I will talk about how each situation in your life, each event can be looked at in 7 different ways, and that seven, once you understand that 7 different ways, it will make you mind things understand a lot faster. But specifically in this series, I will be touching upon those 7 different ways by bringing in more practical applications on how to build a stronger mind. Things like how to build a stronger mind using work, how to build a stronger mind using, if you have a depression, how to build a stronger mind if you have anxiety, how to build a stronger mind using, the mistakes, how to build a stronger mind using your limiting beliefs, how to build a stronger mind using relationships, how to build a stronger mind using, dealing with difficult people. So things like that I will be talking about, because these are the things I have gone through my life at some point, and I'm gonna give you my take on it. And if it helps you, that's great. But if it doesn't, like I always say, if you doesn't resonate with this stuff, don't feel pressure to listen. Keep listening. You don't need to. You need to listen. If you at least resonate with some of this stuff, keep listening to it. But you should not force this stuff on you, because it defeats the whole purpose. What I'm always advising you to is become stronger through acceptance and understanding. Not through just rigidifying your mind or solidifying your mind through just the pains and the suffering. That's a fake way. That's a very almost cowardly way of making your mind strong, because you find the world to be so hard, so you're putting a shell so that it doesn't fall through to the areas that hurt, because that 80% you haven't worked through and figured out, so you're worried what will fall through that, and then how much you will get hurt. So it goes pretty deep sometimes, depending on how you look at it. So the key thing to understand is that don't force yourself. That I can give you another example where a guy who's trying to master martial arts, right? But most of these guys who want to master martial arts, because they not because they want to master their mind or anything like that, but at the early ages, that's the reason. One of the main reasons they use martial arts was they wanted to see they can strengthen their minds within through the practices of, concentrated movements, right? And that's what I feel like came into martial arts, because it had practical applications in deterring certain threats. But now, when we people looking into getting into martial, they do it for self-defense. My question to people is, why? How are you in such jeopardy all the time that you need to dedicate, time to learn self-defense, that you think that your life will be threatened that often? I'm not saying you shouldn't learn to, have as a practice, as an exercise and things like that, but these things that, like, oh, I need to learn it because I'm worried that somebody will jeopardize my valuable life, so I need to see. These are the victim mindset things I'm talking about, that we don't really contemplate sometimes. We use these things, like, even I can give you one of the reasons when I was younger, especially in high school, when I started to work out, because I had huge self-image problems. So in order to cover that up, what I thought, with what I knew at the time, was to build a good body. You know what I mean? So that's what the information that was available at that time. So it's not, now I look at him and it's like, oh man, that poor kid, right? What am I supposed to think? How did he know? How does he know any other information? So this is the same mindset, the same traps we get into, thinking, oh, once we learn a little bit of self-defense, you're good to go. You don't need to feel insecure about yourself. But what we happen is that we feel more insecure when we go learn self-defense, when other people are kicking other people's asses so much faster and harder. So we feel demotivated even more, because we can't master the thing we went to master. So these are the things what I mean by living through external world. I don't believe in strengthening your mind just through that. If that's a tool that you need to borrow to strengthen your mind, that's fine. But letting it represent you, if I were to become a martial art practitioner, I will be stronger. Then you're dependent upon another thing in the external world to make you stronger again. I don't believe in that kind of strength within your mind. Your strength within your mind almost need to come from a place of strong vulnerabilities. That means that you're so secure about your own vulnerabilities, other forces cannot manipulate you using them. That is a very powerful thing to feel when you get to know your vulnerabilities. But before you get to your vulnerabilities and weaknesses, it's a little bit of a difficult situation, because you're not sure how you're getting affected. So, that's what I wanted to tell you guys today. So keep listening. Don't need to try, to force yourself these things to listen. As I said before, enjoy if you like listening to it. If you don't enjoy it, let it go. But have a great life.